You're muted, Rob. That's pretty good. Pretty good game last night. You're muted, Rob. Oh, maybe I muted you, Rob. I'm sorry. That's my fault. Sorry, Rob.
That was a great game last night. I thought it would go down late for a late Indiana push to win. I thought it'd be 38-29. They would cover. They didn't cover, but other than the people that bet, the millions of them that did, a sack of crystals or whatever, Indiana fans got to be happy. Look, got a great show today. He's there right there, Mr. College Football, Tony Barnhart with us. It's like having Dr. Andrews in there after your surgery explaining what we just did. Dr. Jim, tell us. Well, let me hold on a second. So look, take a picture with your phone of the QR codes. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. 8 channels we're streaming live, and we do this every day. We got 8 shows on this channel. We're going to grow and build this network. Big plans. We got a business plan. We're going to make it happen. But share us and like us. Those of you that know us do it. That's how this stuff works. Tony is with Football Writers Association of America. We are going to really break down this game, the how and the why. Is this the new norm in college football? Hey, if it is, just check the TV numbers for this season. Check the non-CFP bowl games. They were up 13% in viewership. Tony, I texted Harold Grader during the Liberty Bowl when I was just getting soaked. But that was my 39th Liberty Bowl. Cincinnati and Navy playing. It's college football. It's like we got to eat. That's how I feel about the game we love. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It was an incredible night at Hard Rock Stadium. The crowd was just absolutely awesome. And, people kept asking me, well, what do you want to see? I said, I just want to see a great game. Well, we saw a great game. We saw a great game, but filled with drama on both sides that came down to the wire that ended on what will become an iconic play. You think about all the great plays, Lorenzo Charles dunking over Phi Slamma Jamma in 1983 and all of those things. And so we got that last night. And I think everybody, let's put it, my daddy used to say, I believe everybody got their money's worth. So.
Yeah, that's right. You look at Curt Cignetti. He was recruiting coordinator in the early years of Nick Saban's reign at Alabama. Knows how to evaluate players. He pushes those guys, and then when they do things on the field, they score, touchdown, whatever. He looks like, I expected that. What do you think he's doing right now? Is he already in? Well, I guess he's still in Miami, but how quickly will he get back into the office?
Well, right now we are coming up on 9 o'clock Eastern time, and about right now, Curt Cignetti is walking to the podium here at the JW Marriott Hotel, and he will give his final press conference to a huge ballroom filled with writers and TV cameras, and then he'll start talking. And knowing coaches, as we all know coaches, as soon as he gets done with this press conference, there is something to do with recruiting that he's going to go take care of today. Most coaches I know, when they're in this position, they pick up the phone and start immediately calling juniors or a guy, and they said, okay, here we are. We need help now. That could be you. So come help us out, will you?
Yeah. All right. Now, in that game last night, again, I hadn't seen the TV numbers on it yet, but the drama, the Indiana fans, I was doing some figuring yesterday before the game. From 1983 to 2002, I believe Miami, I know they won 5 national championships and played for 3 or 4 more. Mm-hmm. But it'd been since, we remember, January of 2002, the pass interference call against Ohio State. It's been a while. Isn't a great football program like a bonfire you build on the river? You go to bed, wake up in the morning, it's cold, the sun's coming up. You just blow on those coals, put a little kindling on there, and it's roaring again. The great programs, that's what I think of when I think of tradition.
No, and that's exactly right. Miami, they don't like to say Miami is back. Miami is here. They say Miami is here, and it has been a long time since they won a national championship, but they got a heck of a lot to continue to build on. So, and now the question now, of course, everybody will ask is they've had Indiana's had 2 great years, and can they sustain it? What's that going to look like? What's recruiting going to look like? And I am sure Indiana's is building on this thing right now.
And you look, Tony, at the big picture of college football. The scene in Miami last night, man, the Hoosier Nation captivated us all with what they did at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They took over. They took over 65, 70% of the crowd last night. Largest living alumni base in the country. They're not used to football, but it's been 1987 since Indiana won their last basketball game.
Right.
Aren't they like a lot of the SEC schools? You look at Auburn, 2 Final Fours in the last 7 years. They ain't done much in football.
No, and ultimately that's the ultimate measuring stick. I tell you a story. I have up until 2 nights ago, I was getting phone calls. My son-in-law has a very good Indiana friend, and we were able to help him out and get into the Peach Bowl. But I could not get any tickets for this game. But in fact, he was calling as late as Wednesday, saying, "Hey, you get me tickets." So it's one story I wanted to share with you. Back in during football season, I was making my little tour for the book that I'm researching, and I was in College Station, Texas. And I had a minute by myself, so I went and had some lunch, went to Texas Roadhouse, something, and sat down at the bar. They're playing Florida the next day, so everybody's decked out in Texas A&M gear except one guy. One guy sitting right next to me at the bar, head to toe, Indiana. Now remember, this is in November, okay?
Yeah.
This I actually doing the early part of the season, and I said, "You got to tell me the story. You're decked out in Indiana gear. What's up with that?" He says, "We are going to be good again. As a matter of fact, we're going to be better than we were last year."
Wow.
And I said, "Come on, dude." So, and you know what? They were better than they were last year.
Yeah, they were. And Fernando Mendoza, I think it was Molly McGrath after the game was talking to Fernando Mendoza. She goes, look at his arm, the hits that he took. I mean, that people don't realize, as Dana Marquez, my friend, former director of equipment ops at Auburn for about 20 years, said, and Ben Troop echoed the same thing. When you play in these big-time SEC football, college football, the NFL, it's like being in a 75-mile-an-hour car crash.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough kid, Fernando.
He was. He was, and I just admire what he did. He took the beating, and when the game, guys, when the game is on the line, the great players want the ball. They feel extremely confident in their ability to make the play, I just remember something Kirk Cignetti said at halftime. He said, "Hey, they're going to make plays. We're going to make plays. Our job tonight is to make one more play than they make." And that's exactly how it happened.
When you look at Miami, they hadn't won the ACC, and they joined the conference back in 2004. But they played for the national championship last night. Mario Cristobal, he's been a head coach not too long, but I think he's made giant steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Miami next year will be they got to get a quarterback. And with the portal, that's wide open. But I think they're going to be one of the preseason. Everybody picks what they call the way too early top 25s. But can you explain to people the portal was January 2nd to January 16th?
Mm-hmm.
But every day you're seeing more players popping up. How does that work?
Well, the bottom line is if you want to be in the portal, that's when the January 12th, 14th, whatever deadline comes into play.
Yeah.
But you can do it right up to the 11th hour, as the folks at Duke found out, and that kid may end up being at Miami when all is said and done. But that's if you want to be in the portal, that's when you got to meet the deadline.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the SEC now, and everybody in the SEC is saying 3 years in a row, Michigan, Ohio State,
mm-hmm.
and the most unlikely of all, Indiana. Nobody saw that coming. That would be like Vanderbilt. But in the same year that Indiana won it all, Vanderbilt was 14th, a couple of spots away
mm-hmm.
from making the playoff. How much pressure does this put on football coaches at places like Auburn and Florida
Oh.
and Arkansas.
It puts tremendous amount of pressure. You can't say, well, nothing's changed. No, everything has changed. You can't now, as we talked about earlier, you cannot say, well, we can't win a national championship here because of this. We don't have the facilities. Well, then you better get them. Or we don't have we haven't figured out how to use the transfer portal to our advantage. Well, guess what, Bubba? You better figure it out. But the coaches, again, as we said, elite coaches, funding at the highest level, okay, and then coaching them up during the games. But it's now, you can't say it's not possible for Indiana to win a national championship. You can't say it's not possible. I had a chance to spend some time with Clark Lee. Clark Lee was in town to pick up the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year award on Saturday, and I was there for that and had a chance to talk to him. And he knows what's going on, and he's done a tremendous job. But it's all about the coaches no longer have excuses for not winning, because if they can do it, we can do it. If we can get the money, that's the X factor. Can we get the money? Can we get the $30 to $40 million it's going to take to build a roster and to build your program?
Realistically, Tony, excuse me, Rob, is that what do you think? Likelihood of building a dynasty in today's college football are? Because I felt like a lot of people just didn't know about Indiana in a lot of ways, and didn't no one expected them to be in this position. Is there more tape on them now? Or how does that work, Tony?
Dynasties in we're entering the new modern era. Okay. Dynasties in the new modern era will not exist. Nick Saban had an incredible dynasty. Why? Because, well, first of all, he's the greatest coach of all time, but he also had tremendous talented depth in that Alabama program. And that enabled teams to that enabled him to put together his dynasty. In the future, you can rebuild every single year, and you're not going to have the depth. We've talked about this. People, my friends at Georgia go, well, where is our depth? And I said, your depth is over there at Florida. It's over there at Auburn. It's over there at Tennessee. And we're not going to have dynasties anymore. It will be impossible because too many teams have good players.
And you start thinking about 16 schools in the SEC. But it's not money alone. And if I were in court, I would say Exhibit A, University of Texas, a $46 billion endowment. And since 1970, before you even were writing, I think you were in college probably. But think about this. They've got one national championship since 1970. That was 2005. Mm-hmm. Texas A&M, a $21.6 billion endowment. They haven't won a national championship since 1939. So it's not just money, Tony. Talk about the room, the think tank, the situation room, whatever, at Georgia right now, at Alabama, where they're going, man, we don't want to slip. We hadn't won at this conference in 3 years. And then, what's Greg Sankey thinking?
Well, I think he's thinking I've just got more good teams in my conference than there has ever been. Yeah. And then the other thing, and we've talked about this, and I said this yesterday to somebody, I said, we as consumers of college football are going to have to take a completely different look at what constitutes a good season, what constitutes a great season. Because I'm telling you, as we move forward, as we add a ninth game to the SEC schedule, 9-3 is going to be a pretty darn good year. And the fans are going to have to grow up and adjust to that, because it's changing, and there's no sense in getting all torqued out when your team, who you thought was going to be 11-1, is 9-3.
Yeah, I don't think New York Giants fans from the 2007 season, when they beat that 17-0 Patriots team, they were 9-7, a wild card. I don't think they're going to give that Super Bowl trophy back anytime soon. But I'm with you. The thing that's so cool about college football is the 11-1, the 12-0 season. And you look at Nick Saban, his first year, and think about what he inherited and what DeBoer inherited. Alabama from 97 to 07 had 8 of those 11 years where they lost 5 games or more, including Saban's first year. They were 7-6. And you look around and you say, golly, Kalen DeBoer and Kevin Skarbinski on this show, Scarborough Knows, did a podcast comparing Nick Saban and Kalen DeBoer's first 2 years. They're almost identical, but the program DeBoer inherited was much stronger. You look at what Kirby did his first year, 8-5. Kirby's won 117 games in 12 years. In 10 years.
10 years, yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, but that's almost 12 wins a year.
Right.
That's Saban-esque right there. What do you think Kirby's doing right now? I'm sure he's at work. I hope he's watching this show because I'd love to get him on here.
I think a lot of coaches now are, like I said, they're making phone calls. They're making phone. They're because not only to recruit high school players, but to be in a situation where you get more and more transfer portals. It's going to be a round the clock job, is my point. And it's just going to be really interesting. And I'm anxious to see what this season is going to be like with 9 conference games. We get to the end of the year. How many 7-2s do we have? How many 8? I bet we don't have any 8-1s. Okay.
Yeah.
And 7-2 will probably be the number that'll get you into the SEC championship game. I'm anxious to see what, if any, changes the conference commissioners make. They met here on Sunday to talk about the future of the format, and they have a January 23rd deadline if they're going to make changes. So we're keeping our eye on that.
Yeah. So you're in Miami. You were at the game last night. Incredible atmosphere, and it's like within less than 3 weeks, somebody's going to start spring practice. But the question that I'm getting a lot of asks,
I think Hawaii has the Rainbows probably started spring practice today. I think. Pretty sure they started in like February. So.
That keeps us going. It's just, but my wife this morning goes, I thought it was over. I said, no, Audrey, it's the recap from last night. She's evolved for life. But Tony, now people are saying, let's don't go to 16. Let's don't go to 24. The symbiotic relationship between Greg Pediti, the Big Ten, and Greg Sankey. A lot of people say, well, the SEC was duped into going to 9 games. I want your take on that. Why did we go to 9 games? We only have 16 teams. If we had 18, it'd make more sense. Kind of tear that argument apart.
Yeah. First of all, the SEC and Greg Sankey weren't tricked into anything. It was a business proposal to go to 9 games, to have more into the understand television plays a role in all this. We all know that, and so it's a situation where they needed a better group of inventory of games. Big Ten had already gone to 9 games. The other schools, it was going to happen. So nobody tricked anybody into anything. So the question now becomes, how in Sankey and Petiti going to get along to get this thing done? I think we've got to go to 16 games. I think this year has proven that. And just think, Rob, the first round of the college football playoff, if we go to 16, will be 8 home games. Yeah. That's how huge would that be? Oh. And so I think it would be the fans would love it. We had more good games this year than we've had in a long, long time. So it's people always wonder about what's going to go wrong. I like to think about what's going to go right, and I think the idea of a 16-team playoff works. 24 is just goofy. All right, I don't even really talk about that, but it's just a goofy idea. And the play-in games and all that. No. Let's don't try to complicate it. We try to complicate these things too much. The fans would love a 16-team first round opening 8 with 8 home games. I just think that would be tremendous.
Yeah, it's so obvious that it's smart. I hope they don't screw it up because 24 is overkill. 16, perfect. One of your big fans, great friend of mine, like an older brother to me, Maury D. Gaston from Sylacauga. Now, Tony, you know this. You've been to every town in the South, I think. You know what Sylacauga's famous for?
What is Sylacauga famous for?
It's the marble capital of the world. And they have a Miss Marble beauty pageant in the
Of
spring.
course they do. Yes.
Miss Marble. Anyway, Mari's asking, he's a member of the Monday morning Birmingham Quarterback Club. How will your job change, Tony? And I'm telling you right now, I talked to Buddy Martin after he was on the show yesterday for about 20 or 30 minutes. Buddy's like everybody's dad and granddad. You get figures that you just count on. The stock market's going crazy. What does Mario Gabelli say? What did Peter Lynch say? I'll never forget on the trading floor, God rest his soul, Fred Smith passed away in July here in Memphis. When Fred Smith would come on CNBC or Fox Business, the trading floor, the old E.F. Hutton commercial, when Fred Smith talked about innovation and going, everybody stopped. But talk about your future, because, Tony, we can count on two things in life: death, taxes, well, three things: sunrises and sunsets. You are that important to college football. And like I said, Brendan and I say it all the time. We want you to be on our channel as we build this network, because you are so important connecting people to the game. All this chaos, and you're on there going, hey, the game's better than it's ever been. I'm not going to talk about what's going wrong. I'm talking about what's going to happen and go right. I love your attitude. We got to have more Tony.
Well, I appreciate that. And the next thing that's going to happen is when I'm done with you guys, I'm going straight to the airport. I'm flying home, and I have a little bit over 2 months to finish this book that I'm doing. I have a manuscript deadline. I got to get that done, and then we got to get it published, because when you get the script done, you're only halfway there. That's a lot to do. But I want to finish up this book and get it done and do whatever marketing they want me to do for it, if there's a need for it. And then we'll see what's going to happen. Mrs. Barnhart and I are taking the grandkids on a Disney cruise.
Well, that's
and
fun.
Then in 2027 will be number 50 for me and Mrs. Barnhart, and we're planning something pretty big for that.
Yeah.
But I'll be around. I'll do. I've already told friends like you that I'm going to still do radio appearances. Going to still give. I got to speak to my boys in Memphis.
Yes,
I have a lot of friends at the Memphis.
You do.
Touchdown Club, and so
Mr. Barnhart,
I'll be around. Like I told you before and everybody else, what I'm doing is walking away from the daily grind, so I can help other people. There's certain charities that Maria and I are involved in that I want to get more involved in, and we have a charity golf tournament, a lot going on. But so I'm not really going anywhere. I just won't be churning out copy 3 times a week like I did for basically 50 years.
Yeah.
When you're ready to start your once a week podcast with Rob and I, it's called Mr. College Football. I feel like it's just a winner already. So, you just let us know from the comfort of your own home.
That's right. We'll do everything for you.
We can do it. So I'm ready when you are.
Yeah. Because Tony, you really are. And Brendan, you ought to see it. And you know it when it comes to Ocala or games or whatever, but just you're one of these people that whatever happens, you've got something good to say. And I don't have time for these people. Look, the game's not ruined, but I love Kerry Jones' comments from Lebanon, Tennessee. College football is all about the money. It's ruining the sport. Unless they rein in the transfer portal, it will not last long term. I mean, this isn't the first crisis we've had in college football, Tony, is it?
Well, and first of all, you're not going to rein in the transfer portal.
Yeah.
You're not going to rein in the NIL. Okay, we still have laws in this country. We still, Counselor, you understand we have antitrust laws.
Yes.
And the problem is we can't seem to put anything together that doesn't violate antitrust law.
Yeah.
And until you do that, you're not going to fix any of this.
Yeah.
And until you get collective bargaining, you're not going to fix any of this.
Yeah.
And so,
what about also, Kerry's asking, need to do away with the SEC championship game? It's irrelevant. I've been to some Atlanta. I just love Atlanta. Like I said, our oldest daughter lives there. Clark Humble, super fan of college football. He wants to meet you. We're going to get together. I think he's a cool story, but it's a big deal. In '92, when we went to it, we thought it was the end. And look what happened that first year. Alabama ends up winning the title. But what are your thoughts on that? And I got a text from Gary Stoken last night. I hate that Gary is, quote, retired from Atlanta Sports Authority. You know Gary.
very well.
You and Gary. Pete Cordelli knows Gary very well. Tommy Tuberville told me about him 7 years ago when we started this show. He said, you need to call my buddy Gary Stokan. I know what you all do in Atlanta. Tell people the future for Atlanta Sports Authority. I don't want to do away with that game. For some reason, I love it.
Yeah, and I don't want to do away with it either. I just go back to the fact that a couple of months ago, I was sitting with Roy Kramer at his house.
God.
And not too long ago, we lost him. And I hate that we're going to lose, if we're going to lose his legacy. But I'm afraid now that I look at the landscape. If you want to go to 16 teams, all right, you want to go to 9 conference games, I just think the SEC championship game is going to squeeze out. I would love it if they figure out a way to make it. The problem, though, is that we have schools that will play in the SEC championship game, not certain if they want to be there. And to me, that would be the worst thing for Commissioner Kramer's legacy if we were playing a game that people said, well, we really don't want to play in this game.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be hard to meet all the other goals of expansion and keep the SEC championship game. Hope I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, and Atlanta is, and I tell whenever I'm there, and every day at media days, I was going back where the people were preparing all the food and stuff. Gary Stokan would be right over there. He's there every day, just like you, and tell him how much we appreciate. Atlanta's the best big city in America at putting on events with hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
That's hard to. Memphis isn't as big, but Atlanta, they know how to make you feel welcome. It's a really cool. It's the largest college football market, I think, in America. 6.5 million, 22 counties. I remember, Tony, when I was in college, it was 2.5 million. It was a small town.
Oh yeah.
I mean, talk about the town where you're from. Is it eventually going to be rolled up? It'll never be really part of Metro Atlanta, will it? Union Hill.
My hometown?
Yeah.
Union Point.
Union Point, Georgia.
It's in Greene County, about 60 miles away from downtown Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta is. I was just going to say about the college or SEC national championship game, working in TV and all that. I know there's just so many contracts and money to be lost, even at this point, to say that you wouldn't have something like that, Tony. Isn't that correct? I mean, there's such a an event money generator in Atlanta, and everyone else. I mean, who doesn't love to go to the SEC game in Atlanta that time of year? I mean, that's that to me has almost been traditional in that sense. So especially watching T-Mobile, I just think it's really fascinating to me, Tony, about, when I break down what Cignetti did here, and then, and look at the average age of his players. And I just wanted to know, do you feel like that, it sort of taints the process? We had, where guys talking about, I haven't had class in 2.5 years and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and now people don't understand that's been going on. Eligibility and graduation has been going on for a minute.
Right.
Yeah, that's not a new thing. So a lot of people are being shocked by that with some of the comments. I tell you to look at the history of how that works. But Cignetti did have a significantly older roster, and is that? I mean, obviously, it makes somewhat of a difference.
Oh, it makes a huge difference. What did the coach say? When you talk about your roster, get old and stay old. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that is the key. And it makes a difference when you're putting 21, 22-year-old guys out there and you're putting out there 23, 24-year-old guys. The maturity that guys pick up in that stretch is significant. And again, if you're a head coach, that's part of your skill set. You got to figure this out. You got to figure out a way to get an older team that's over the course of a 9-game conference schedule that's going to be able to perform. There's so many different levels now of a coach's job. It used to be if you recruited well and recruit good players and coach them up. That was it. Well, it's a lot more complicated than that. And the guys who adjust, and Saban was one of those guys. It took him a year to sort of figure out exactly how to adjust to it, all the new rules. But then once he did, he was as good as anybody about it.
Yeah. Well, another thing, in a few more minutes before you go, Yancy Porter is going to join us in a minute from Rebel Yell Hotline. And it's a great show Monday nights at 6 on WHBQ Sports 56 in Memphis and Super Talk Mississippi people. Listen, Tony, you think about, again, I mentioned this to you before we went on the air. Well, you can't be tough on the kids. They'll leave. No, the tougher you are, the more they want to be a part of your team. Look at the coaches that made it. Pete Golding, Final Four, he's pretty tough. He's pretty intense. He says what he believes. Kurt Cignetti speaks for himself. Mario Cristobal, he's tough. He's driven. And you look at Dan Lanning. Oh, my goodness. Dan Lanning, probably after that Indiana loss, was on the phone walking off the field trying to recruit. That, to me, says that if you look at the 13 weeks at Parris Island, look what you can do with a busload of kids from east of the Mississippi that have never met in their lives. And in 13 weeks, if they survive, if they leave that island, they are Marines for the rest of their lives. Tough works. Go along to get along goes 8-5.
Well, kids, they don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. I mean, they said, you have to convince the players, I am tough on you because I want you to be the best you can be. I'm not going to let you settle for being less than you can be. And I'm doing it because I love you. Now, there's the difference. You always have to draw that line between toughness and abuse. Okay. Make sure you don't bleed into the other. But the players know you're tough on them. I want to get to the NFL. Well, this guy can do it. And if I listen to what he said, and yes, he's going to be tough on me because he wants to get me to my ultimate goal, but he cares. And that's what ultimately it's all about.
Yeah. Tony, I know
Oh, sorry, Tony. I was just going to say that what's interesting about John Summerall in Florida, he's a different kind of person in a sense. Like, he's all about using his money to do good for his community, for things, and making things around him with his wife. It seems like that's a big important part. It seems like he gets a lot of his, like now that you've got guys that are making money, you can sort of pull on these guys and come at them in a different way, as if, hey, let's help me lead this team. Right. Using these guys as your captains and then seeing an example of how a person with money was going to use it properly, responsibly, and these kinds of things. I feel like, having a kid, they watch you now more than they ever listen to you now. Actions matter, words matter less because they text them all day, watching you do monkey see, monkey do. And they ingest that way more than I did as a kid because we didn't want to be told. Now it's like they just want to see it and they want to watch the example and they want to be successful because they have seen that success on the internet and those kind of things. I think we just have a different kind of a way of motivating at this point.
No, I would totally agree with that. Is that they know you care and they want to see how much you care. But show me, coach. Don't scream at me and say, do this because I said so. No, do this because I believe and you trust me to do what's in your best interest.
Yeah.
So
recent studies came out. They did a whole study about coaching, and they looked at the coaches who are yellers and screamers, who always, use negative reinforcement, and the coaches who use positive reinforcement. They said, hands down, the positive reinforcement coach gets something like 10 times more out of their player.
Yeah.
And it's a huge thing where, I grew up getting screamed at, go run laps, all that stuff. There's a point for that. But if you don't think that coach cares, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But it's just like in the military, you're an officer, you're going to learn from your NCOs from the academy. That's just going to teach you how to be an officer and take care of your men first. And Tony, before you go, Brendan's right. And you see it. If you're going to push people hard, get out there and do it with them. Nothing will motivate you less than some fat slob coach riding around in a golf cart screaming and hollering at you, drinking a Long Island tea.
Clark Lee was working out with his players.
Yep.
He looks like he could still play, as does John Summerall. Yeah. So it's going to be
right.
Tony.
And speaking of guys on the phone, Urban Meyer used to get on the phone when he won the national championship. Moments later, he's in the locker room sharing the locker room experience with recruits. I mean, they're on the phone immediately because now you want to get some of that momentum, and get guys to be a part of that. So,
yeah. Well, Tony, you get the next 2 months, you'll be working on the book. We want to get you on to keep us updated, and we're going to help you promote it in every way possible. I'll put a QR code, website, whatever up here every day for people, because if you read about college football from a writer like you or Buddy Martin, you're going to love college football. No matter what all the negative forces coming at you say, you just got to remember what Gandhi said. I will not allow other people to walk through my mind with their dirty feet.
There
That's
you
what
go.
you got to remember. Look, Tony, how can they follow you? And again, thanks more than you know for coming on here. Have a safe trip back, and we're already excited about your next visit.
Well, thanks. I'm like I said, I'm not writing a whole lot right now, other than the book. But as we get updates on the book, I'll be happy to share that sort of stuff with you. But the next 2 months are going to be very busy.
Yep, you're gonna be like Lauren Smith, go to Sea Island or St. Simon's to the writers' colony down there.
There you go.
To get away. All right, take care, man. Thank you.
All right, guys, take care.
All right, love it, Brendan. College football, the importance of this game. It's the people like Tony, like your dad, like Franz Beard wrote that book on the golden year, the golden season. We talked about. Yancy Porter's going to join us in just a minute.
Well,
and
I wanted to take a moment, Rob, because I wanted to tell you, I talked to you about this, but you know, I worked in broadcasting for a long time. I worked in TV broadcasting for 15 years in Denver, Colorado. A gentleman passed away the last couple of days. It was a mentor of mine to many people in Colorado. And I just wanted to say, Stephen Brown, his name is Steve Brown, Stevie B, passed away, cancer, and he struggled with it for a long time. He's one of the main handheld shooters in Denver for all of the Pepsi Center games, or NBA, NHL, you name it. The guy was one of the best in the business as far as what he did. And I just wanted to say that, Stephen Brown was a mentor of mine. And he passed away. Yes, I think it was yesterday, day before. We just wanted to say, love you, Stephen Brown, because there's a small group of family we've got in the media here. And sports media is even smaller. And he was one of the good guys. So anyway, we'll miss you, Stevie B.
You never forget your mentors.
No, he's just one of the good guys. His son, Dylan, just a great family, and we're gonna miss his dad. And any one of those people out there listening, you know what I'm talking about. We'll miss you, Stephen Brown. We'll miss you. With that, we'll bring in Yancy Porter.
Yancy, we're the video restream here.
That's all right. Well,
okay. Yancy, yeah, if you can do video, we'd love to do it that way. But if not, let's talk. We just had Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, on here, talking about the game last night. And I was listening to Rebel Yell Hotline last night on the way back after I ran at the park. And you and Chuck were on there talking about recruiting. Yeah. And you made a great point about, what do you got, 12, 13 linemen? And y'all were very emphatic. Hey, we need more. He said, I'd like to see 5 or 6 in this class. First off, as always, thanks more than you know for sharing your time with us. And all of you watching, you better pay attention to Yancy Porter and what he says about Ole Miss. I think he's a tip of the spear with Rebel coverage, and we've got great people covering Ole Miss for us. Yancy, it's different now when I listen to the Rebel Yell Hotline. There's a sense of urgency, like, wow, y'all just went to the Final Four and were really close to playing for the national championship. There's an extra speed level in the step of everybody in and around Oxford on the square on campus, isn't there?
Yeah, back to the issue with the linemen, they've got 18 defensive linemen enrolled, ready to go for next season, which is really 14, 15 is kind of where you want to be on the defensive line. So, look, I mean, you do have a defensive coach as the head coach down there, and Pete Golding, and so that's they're going to make sure they get their numbers on their side. But on the offensive line, they got 13, and you really want to have 17, 18. That's normally kind of the numbers that it goes for the offensive line. So they got some catching up to do with the Porter on the offensive line. They feel like they got 5, 6 that are really, really good, but including 3 that are multi-year starters there at Ole Miss. But both your tackles graduated, and they got to shore that up. But overall, you like what they did. They only lost 2 of their starters to the portal. They feel like they added several guys that can fill those holes and some other holes as well. So that's kind of where they are. Everything kind of Everybody's waiting on Chambliss to get that resolved. Everybody still feels good about that happening for him. So as long as that comes through, they feel like they got just as good a shot to win it next year as anybody else.
All right, got a question texted to me from Atticus Finch from Monroeville, Alabama. You may remember Atticus. He's wanting to know any truth to these rumors that are out there, and who better to ask than Yancy Porter, that Lane Kiffin was trying to put stuff out about NIL deals to disrupt the Ole Miss locker room. True or false, Yancy? Because you would know better than any.
I don't know about that. I heard the rumors, but I cannot verify if that's true or not. I
Yeah.
do know the things that was going on 48 hours before the deadline about him trying to get players to go into the portal and come to LSU. But as far as leaking out information about NIL deals, I I, I don't think it's true, but I can't confirm if that rumor is true or not.
All right. So, next question. The core of this Ole Miss team is staying, but y'all talked about Princely and some people leaving. Uh, were you shocked at some of the departures, or did you expect it? Yancey.
I apologize.
Uh,
There you went in and out. Was I shocked about some of the departures at Ole Miss?
yeah, like Princely and people like I was.
Princewell, yeah. You know, look, they've lost two starters. They feel like they got significantly better at one of those spots that they lost. TJ Daughtery that went to LSU. They feel like that the Clemson linebacker is gonna and the Baylor linebacker, those two are going to give them a significant upgrade there at linebacker. And the other spot is Givens there at cornerback. That they feel like that the Crawford over there at Auburn is going to be an upgrade there. So the two spots that they lost in the portal, they feel like they've got better. Princewell is not a done deal with LSU yet. I think it's going to be. I think a lot of it is determined if they're able, if LSU's able to sign the offensive tackle at Colorado, um, because Princewell had already signed a revenue share agreement with Ole Miss, so LSU's will have to pay Ole Miss about $650,000 in revenue share money and able to get Princewell. Will they have room under the cap for that if they're able to sign Seton out of Colorado, the offensive tackle there? I don't know. You can still work in NIL deals, but the difference between NIL and revenue sharing is these players know 100% they're getting their money in revenue sharing because it's coming from the university and not through the collectives. And also, now with the new rules in place, you have to earn that money when you do NIL deals. You have to actually go and advertise for them and do signatures and work for that money, so to speak. Where revenue sharing, you don't have to do anything, it's just going into your bank account. So, players much preferably want revenue sharing right now. And if schools sign another player under a revenue sharing deal with another school, then they take that cap like the NFL. So you got to now deduct that off of what you buy out from the player from the other school underneath your revenue sharing cap. So that is something that's an interesting twist about what is going on here now. There's so many rules and regulations with this revenue sharing that the fans don't know about, and I think they're positive.
Yeah. All right, Yance. Defensively, Ole Miss was 65th in the nation this past year in stopping the run.
Yeah.
And that showed up. Miami last night damn near pulled it off, and I thought that game would go down to the last drive, and Indiana would get a late touchdown to cover. I looked like a genius until I didn't, because they had to settle for a field goal. But it's never what you think it's going to be. Pete Golding is now the head coach. Let's talk about who's going to now run the defense for Ole Miss. You've got Kamari Franklin from Lake Cormorant, Mississippi, back for his third or fourth season. You mentioned 18 defensive linemen. That's edge rushers, interior, what have you.
Yeah, they loaded up. We saw Ole Miss wear down some on defense, not some, but significantly against Miami. They kind of pushed Ole Miss around there,
Yeah.
and so they loaded up. You know, they added 5 defensive linemen, 3 linebackers. They're going to add 2 more linebackers coming up here. So, in that front seven, they said, you know, we got to get more depth and we got to get bigger. And so that was the objective in the portal, and that's what they did. In the secondary, they felt like safeties were an issue. Maybe having a second true corner there was could have been an issue there as well. They felt like that they really did well there in the secondary. Added proven guys from the SEC, including one you're familiar with there at Auburn. You know, so they feel like defensively they really made a step forward. You know, offense, they loaded up on running backs, loaded up on wide receivers. Obviously, if Chambliss comes back, which everybody expects, they're going to be really good there. But you know, I still, you know, you can't say enough about injuries and not having them on that offensive line for Ole Miss. People don't realize they played the same 5 starters the last 14 games of the season, every snap. So that happens about every 2 decades. You know, you just don't get a season where you don't have any injuries to the big guys up front. So, you know, that's still an area that Ole Miss has got to address if they're going to be a true national championship team that season, in my opinion.
All right. Y'all talked about on Rebel Yell Hotline Sports 56 WHBQ Memphis 6 p.m. Monday nights in Super Talk Mississippi, which is all over the Magnolia State. And if you live in a surrounding state that touches Mississippi, you can certainly hear that show as well. You talked about uh, the importance, recruiting, the portal, and all that. But you also talked about the court case of Trinidad Chambliss. He was denied, and now they're going to take it maybe to a judge in Oxford and Lafayette County. But you look at Carson Beck, this was his 6th or 7th year. Uh, Stunning news, TJ Finley, the Energizer Bunny of the transfer portal, on his 7th school. I'm sure he's got his PhD by now, doesn't he? I'm sure he does. In whatever, I don't know. But golly, you think about Trinidad Chambliss, Lacey, these guys coming back. I think when you've got Thomas Mars as your attorney, you're going to win. How soon will we know if Trinidad gets another year? Because he's 24, but he needs more starts.
Yeah, he's not 24. He'll be 23 next fall.
Okay, mistake.
Yeah,
My
yeah, no,
apology. I didn't think he was 24, and I was going. I heard
no,
that.
he's yeah,
I stand corrected. Can I say
he's
something real quick?
22. He's
Yeah.
22 right now, and he'll be 23 next year.
All right, let me say
But
something real quick about My Town Roofing, real quick. I want to say this. Corey Carter, friend of mine, he's in my hunting club in the Cherry Farm, Duck Lodge. My Town Roofing, schedule your roofing inspection today. Use code SIDELINES. Very important, so they'll know you heard about them on this show. Put in their code SIDELINES. We're about to get, Yancy, I know you're watching the weather, significant snowfall starting maybe Friday night, Saturday into Sunday. We're seeing all kind of projections, 5 to 8 inches, up to 15 inches of snow here in the Memphis Mid-South area. You do not want your roof to collapse and cave in. Their roofing crews, I've seen them work. October 2nd of last year at 6:27 a.m., 25 people came in on that crew. Chris Fiedler was the foreman, Major Fusel, Corey Carter. The next day by 3 o'clock on a 7,000 square foot house here, they had ripped and put on a new roof. My Town Roofing in Memphis. Let them work on your roof here in the Mid-South. You do not want to be caught without a roof over your head, just like you don't want to be caught without enough linemen. But I wanted to get that in. Yancy, get back to where we are. Sorry I distracted you.
no, you know, with Chambliss's case, it's simply he's only played 3 years, and so I mean, honestly, he's only played 2.5 years. But you count that half season that he played. I mean, that's what you don't realize is, he missed his first 2 years of college. The first year, he took a true red shirt, and then he got sick. He had mono a couple times. Um, he had post COVID stuff going on. He was sick, and he never practiced. He never played, and that's why you have medical red shirts. And the NCAA denying him the first time is preposterous. It doesn't make any sense. Then they try to come out with the PR campaign and said that that Ferris State said that he just simply got beat out and it wasn't because of medical issues, and that was a lie. And they then Tom Mars prints out a statement from Ferris State saying the NCAA lied. We did not say that. We said that he did have medical issues, and we support him getting a medical red shirt. So it goes back to what we talked about again with the NCAA and the corruption that is just so embedded in that organization. I mean, you really think with Twitter and social media these days that you can go out and say that a school said this and it's a complete lie? I mean,
Yeah,
that's how bold they are. And in the old days, before this, they would have gotten away with that.
yeah.
And just think about all of the schools that they put on probation with all the corruption that was going on over there. And so I'll be absolutely shocked if an injunction is not put in place within the next couple weeks.
All right, that's because that's going to be huge. All right, Yance. Wow, I'm gonna switch gears, talk some college basketball. The
Yeah.
season going until January 19th. I mean, it's like a total eclipse of SEC basketball. Was that Bonnie Raitt that wrote that song back in 83, 84? Total Eclipse of the Heart, or whoever it was. Maybe it was uh, um, who was that? Ethel Merman. I'm not sure who it was, but anyway, SEC basketball. Chris Beard and Ole Miss last year get to what? The Elite Eight. Um, Hell of a season. We're just not hearing it. It's just different this year. We had 14 of 16 schools make it. This year, we could have 5, we could have 8 or 9. Talk about Ole Miss basketball. We got a few minutes left.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think last year was the peak of the SEC. So you're getting revenue sharing already starting to occur around the country, and you're going to go back to the old basketball. Schools are going to be more prominent than they have been the last few years because they're going to spend their revenue sharing on
Yeah.
basketball, where the football schools are going to spend it on football. And there's not a whole lot of basketball schools that are true basketball schools inside the SEC outside of Kentucky. So, where do you want to spend your money? Right now, this year you are able to put clauses in it and able to get more money into the program outside of the revenue sharing. So everybody's loaded up on their rosters this year. So I'm not sure why this season it's been a little bit of down year in the SEC, but I think you kind of get used to it because I think the money is going to start going to these traditional basketball conferences that have basketball schools like Villanova, and Georgetown, and St. Louis, and Marquette, and these programs that don't even field football teams. Their money's going to go to basketball. So that's the future in my eyes. But as to Ole Miss this year, I think it's just taking a long time to get these guys together. Out of their 12 players that play, 11 are new. And so it's taken a while just to figure out a rotations, and that didn't come about till 3 games ago. So they're starting to gel. The big three, Dia, Store, Elias, those guys are starting to play much better. Dia had been playing consistently. Elias and Store had not. The last 3 games, Elias and Store have really started coming around and playing big time basketball. If those three are playing on top of their game, Ole Miss is a really good basketball team. If 2 of the 3 are playing on top of their game, they're very solid. If 1 or 3 are playing, they're just not good enough. So that's the story that you got to look for throughout the season. How do the big 3 play?
Well, I think you're looking at it from a financial model in that angle. Last year, Texas made over $235 million off of football. Okay. The number one,
Unbelievable.
the number one gross revenue producing college basketball school in America was Kansas at 38 million. So if you get in the boardroom and you start talking to your shareholders and the board of directors, focus on football. Okay. I'm concerned about SEC basketball because Vanderbilt this year, they were rolling, but it's different. I don't think anybody's ever explained it. Bonnie Tyler, total eclipse of the heart. There you go, Yancy. I know you were at every one of her concerts.
Well, look, speaking of the money, Ole Miss made $750,000 off of basketball last season. So it's basically just a sport that you hope to break even. It's not really a revenue generating sport. It's just not. Actually, baseball makes 3 times more than basketball does at Ole Miss, but baseball is unique at Ole Miss compared to most schools. But basketball does bring you national exposure for your program. It's free advertising, so you can't just go off of the numbers of what it's generating for your program. But it's just football's king. We all know that.
Yeah, it is. Look, Yancy Porter, great stuff. I mean, you really gave us some great reels and some great sound bites. That take on basketball, you put it in layman's terms better than anyone has ever done on this show. I got to say, from everybody in Vicksburg and Hattiesburg, the Bergs, thank you more than you know for sharing your time with us. And we will do it again next week, okay?
We'll get some video reel for you next week, Rob.
Hey, we just love you, man.
I'm standing outside, get ready for presentation. So
I know,
nothing I can do this
Yancy,
week.
you have no idea. I know how busy you are. You have no idea how much we appreciate you doing.
Thanks, Yancy.
Yeah, we'll talk to you next week. You bet.
God bless. Y'all take care.
God bless you as well, man. I love that guy. Let me say something. Landers Ford, look over my shoulder there, folks. They're open every day except Sunday. The day means more than the dollar. And Brad Bellamy's the general manager. Cars, trucks, SUVs, new and pre-owned. Huge lot there at Poplar and Houston Levy. And the service department will pick you up, take you back and forth. You don't have to.
Didn't I see that Collierville, Tennessee is like they got emergency road closure because like a bunch of your roads are unpassable right now or something?
Well, there could be some.
You need a truck. You need to go down to Landers and get yourself an F-150.
Yeah, I drive an F-150, and I'm going to tell you right now.
I need an F-150.
I know you'd love a Bronco or an F-150.
And then we should have matching trucks, and then we could do cool
and wrap them in sidelines. And look, Mount Moriah. Remember when Brad Bellamy said on Friday, Mount Moriah and I-240, that's the location of the new Landers Ford shop. Yes. That's an iconic location. The old Dobbs Ford, everybody remembers that. #1 in the world. They sold 25% of the Fords in the world at one time. Now you got Landers Ford right there. You cannot find better corporate partners. These people put money into so many great causes, 6 different stadiums like Christian Brothers High School, Tom Nick Stadium, Landers Field, Houston, Collierville. Great people to work with. Right down the street from our good friends. We love them. Hewlett and Dunn, Boot and Clothing Company. I'm wearing this Barber quarter zip I got there at Hewlett and Dunn. The boots for the men and the women, the kids. Filson luggage.
Almost every day.
Yeah, the Farrell Boar.
Everyone
salad.
always asks me about them too.
Yeah, and Hewlett and Dunn, they can ship them anywhere. HewlettandDunn.com. And look,
it's worth it.
It's definitely worth it. And look, hempforpros.com. You got aches and pains. You're having trouble sleeping. These gummies, go to hempforpros.com. The lights out gummies put you go to sleep, okay? And 25% off. Use that promo code.
Click the QR code, takes you right there.
Yeah, it takes you right there. It takes you right to the website. Take a picture with it. They've got energy gummies, give you focus. They also help suppress your appetite. They've got chill gummies. They got lights out gummies and pain topicals. They got it all. Look, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Go out and find ways to help other people every single day. Thanks for watching. For EP, Brendan Martin, #1. Have a great day.
Good night, John Boy. See you tonight. Buddy Martin Show.